First one is from Brayley in Orpington in Kent. Is there any evidence that pesticide residues in food could be linked to cancer?
OK, depends which evidence you look at, because the answer is yes and no at the same time, just to frustrate everyone.
Right.
So if you look at animal studies where you give quite high doses of pesticides, then yes, you can see a connection with some cancers. However, the question is whether the incredibly low dose that actually ends up being a residual amount on your food causes cancer. Well, actually, the argument there is actually that no, there is no suggestion. It's under what is a safe limit for pesticide use on food. The biggest risk, if you're actually worried about pesticides and cancer, is if you're a farmer or someone like that who's actually handling those highly concentrated, large quantities of it in the first place. If you're worried about doing your weekend shopping and worrying about which apples to buy or something, then the suggestion there is no.
So those low doses. So that comes back again to the environmental factors, where you work.
Well, yeah, exactly that. One of the problems with stories like this is you tend to think of cancer, we talk about stories, and we go, oh, it's just down to this. And actually, in fact, there's this whole conundrum of things, this whole cauldron of things that is cancer. It's your family risk. It is a little bit of luck. It's the things that you do. It's where you work. It's the foods that you eat. And so, yeah, it's all of those things. And exactly, you're right. Some of those things you can't avoid. The places you work can be a risk factor for cancer.
Francis asks, this is an old chestnut, this one.
Go on.
What evidence is there to link radiation from mobile phones and Wi-Fi to cancer?
Well, the World Health Organization says that there isn't a connection with things like with mobile phones and Wi-Fi and cancer, that the evidence isn't there to say that there is a link. The way that I reassure myself about this one, because this one comes up all the time, is that if we go back 20, 30 years, people didn't really have mobile phones, and now everybody has one, and I know people who have multiple mobile phones. So if they were a major risk factor for cancer, then we would have seen absolutely rocketing rates of things like brain cancer from when you're using your mobile phone. That hasn't really happened. So no, the WHO line, no, there is no link.
That's very interesting. I thought this was an interesting point as well. An email from Malcolm that says, if you've had cancer and received treatment, can you still reduce the chances of a reoccurrence by changing your habits? I suppose he means by becoming healthier and by living a healthier lifestyle if you've already gone through one course of treatment.
A healthier lifestyle never does you wrong when it comes to cancer, but it depends on the subtleties of that question. So if they had a cancer and it had spread around their body, but they hadn't caught all of it, and they'd removed the main tumour, but it had lodged somewhere else, maybe it was a breast cancer that moved to the bone or something like that, then that cancer is already there, and so you might appear to have recovered, but in actual fact there's still cancer inside your body that is continuing to grow. So you're not really going to be able to change the odds that much in that circumstance. If you're talking about a scenario where you have successfully removed all the cancer in your body, then yes, you're still at a stage where you can change the probability of getting another cancer at some point in your life by improving some of those environmental risk factors, things like smoking and
so there
doing
isn't
more
a chain
exercise.
reaction which has started that you can't stop. If you were in remission, you change your lifestyle, then you can extend your chances.
Yeah, as I said, it all depends on that thing about what is remission and whether they have got all of the cancer. Because if you think a cancer is one cell in your body that went rogue, divided uncontrollably and became this cancerous mass in your body which will ultimately kill you. If you remove all of that, take that and remove it from your body, either through surgery or radiotherapy or chemotherapy, then there is nothing left. And so it's almost like you're starting again. Some other part of your body has to become cancerous in order for you to have another cancer. However, if a fragment of that is left behind when you do the treatment, then that can still come back, obviously.
Very interesting. Okay. David emails, can prostate cancer, big killer for men, of course, be understood by looking for outside factors? And he goes on to say, I always thought genetic factors were important.
They are, and this is one of those things that I mentioned earlier about how we almost end up focusing too narrowly on what is going on with cancer. So, yes, there are risk factors for cancer. Some of them are genetic. It does run in families. Some of them are down to environment. Some of them are down to pure chance. And so what I quite liked an analogy that one of the researchers that did this latest study gave me last night. And he was saying, if you think about just your innate risk of cancer, that is a little bit like playing Russian roulette with one bullet in the revolver. You might get hit, you might not. It's a little bit of it's a game of chance there. But if you are genetically predisposed to cancer, that's like putting extra bullets in the chamber. If you continue to do unhealthy habits like smoking, then that puts more bullets in the chamber. There's still an element of chance going on, but you're substantially changing the odds. And I quite like that. I think that's a nice way of understanding.
So in answer to David's point, if
Yeah.
you are predisposed to prostate cancer, it's in your genetic line, then by not living healthily, that risk might go up.
And well, that risk would go up whether you had that. People at low risk of developing cancer genetically, if they live unhealthy, then their risk goes up. If you have a heightened risk normally and you live unhealthy, then your risk goes up as well. It's like these things all stack on top of each other.
And this is an interesting point as well, and that sort of partly ties in with genetics, family history and so on, because an email from James in Chester says, I'm an identical twin and my twin brother got tongue cancer, yet we both live healthy lifestyles. It's difficult to imagine why he got the cancer.
Yes.
That's a big question. I know
it is.
But it's fascinating as well when you're looking at identical twins.
It is. Yeah. Well, things identical twins aren't completely identical, but that's probably not what happened in here. And their identicalness comes down from what's happening to them inside the womb. So, they initially were kind of like one sperm and one egg that fused together that would normally have produced one child, but something happened and they split up and became two. So that's where the identicalness comes from. However, from that point, they develop on their own path. And what happens is, as you grow, your cells, all those cells in your body, have to divide in order for you to grow. And think about your skin. You brush off dead skin all the time. Your skin underneath that is repairing itself. That's from more cells dividing. Every time your cell divides, it has to create a new copy of DNA inside it, that genetic instructions for your life. The problem is it's not perfect, so you get mutations that develop randomly throughout life. And the older identical twins are the greater that disparity between what's happening inside their DNA. Obviously, they're much more related than we are, but there is still a growing difference between them. So that could be one of those things, just random luck. They got the wrong mutations in the wrong parts of the wrong cells that led to one getting cancer and the other one didn't.
That's very, very interesting. James, thank you so much. James Gallagher, our health correspondent. Thank you.